How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL live stream. And today, it's the end of Double Game Week 26. The bench boost I played was quite successful. I got 19 points from it, and we'll show you how that kind of breaks down. A couple of unlucky players in there, a couple of really good players, and overall, I thought the week was okay in some cases, but not so okay in others. It was a bit of a mixed bag. I could expect some really, really big scores, but I can also expect a lot, smaller scores that than people would have liked. Some triple captaincy shouts went out the window this week and didn't do so well. Especially some of the favorable ones. Kane only getting just a goal in two really favorable fixtures when he could have had about 3 or 4. Bruno Fernandes and Salah both blanking. Fernandes getting just the 6 points. Salah getting the 4 points. And overall, there's a lot of questions for certain teams, and we're going to be looking at some of those as well when it comes to our predictions and whatnot, and our differential picks. But yeah, if you haven't done so already and you aren't watching this when it goes live over on YouTube, we do these live streams over on Twitch, so we would love for you to join us in the chat. For these streams, the next one will be the deadline stream, which will be 1 hour before the FPL deadline on Saturday. That is at 5 a.m. EST. But yeah, and give us a follow on all the socials and that sort of stuff too. It's down in the description or about section or whatever it is on Twitch, or if it's on YouTube, it's there's usually a pinned comment as to when our next live stream will be. But yeah, without further ado, let's see how we did. So, this is how the team did. Quite good. 108 points. Our first triple-digit score, I believe, of the season. I think I came up just shy last time. And yeah, 100 points with the -8. So very, very happy about that. Obviously, Barnes getting injured after bringing him in for a hit wasn't ideal. Would have been better off with just... Basically, we would have been 5 points better off if we had just kept and played Rafinha. We would have also been better off if we had just played and kept Bamford as well. We would have been 2 points better off. So, again, not the best, but overall, pretty happy with the week overall. So, when looking at the bench boost here, it's not exactly the players that I have there. The player that I would have benched and wouldn't have started would have been Aina. I would have had him on the bench. So if you replace Target with Aina's 3 points, so you have Aina's 3, Lookman's 4 makes 7, plus Areola's 8 makes 15, plus Shaw's 12 makes 27. So if you take off 8 points off that, 19 points from the bench boost, a very successful bench boost, in my opinion. Hey Tokes, how's it going? Got himself a little emote there. I have one of my own as well. But yeah, so overall the backline was fairly strong on average, with Shaw and Target kind of bringing up the majority of the points for that. Shaw getting 2 clean sheets, which is nice. Target, unfortunate not to get 2 clean sheets as well. That would have been really massive had I had Martinez and Target get a double clean sheet in that point. Pereira only getting 2 points, again, not great. Aina losing out on the 1 clean sheet that Fulham did end up having. So if I had let's say Tete or Arabayo, even though Arabayo did concede an own goal, I would have still been way more points up than what I am now. But overall, not too bad. And they're going to become bench options anyway. Maybe I'll utilize them further down the line in the one-off games, but we'll have to see on that front. With Barnes being out, Lookman will probably have to play for me this week if I choose not to make a transfer. But in the midfield, we were quite strong. Gundogan getting 6 points overall, it's not terrible. De Bruyne is 10 points, happy about that. A double-digit score is always nice. Son with 14 points, very, very happy about that. And then Kane, 16 points, could have definitely had way more. Watkins, he got himself a little return. Nothing too crazy overall, but again, Villa just don't look the same without Jack Grealish in there. So a bit disappointing. And then Jamie Vardy again, not really having too much of a sniff at the goal. Areola getting 8 points is great because we were able to get at least one of the Fulham clean sheets. And then Shaw, obviously, one of the standout players this week, 12 points. Target, we already mentioned, and Lookman Got booked in the Spurs game, which, wasn't ideal. But overall, we ended up with a triple-digit score. And that takes us up to just shy of 1,600 points on the season, so 1,573. And it's a green arrow into the top million, into just shy outside the top 800k, which is great. We had a Gameweek rank of 283k, which was nice as well. But overall, very, very nice. Very, very nice indeed. Definitely happy about this week overall. I've seen some people that have had a lot worse scores than what I've had. So if we look at the guy who had the highest points, let's take a look. 169. He's in the top 600k. I don't know what his rank was before this, but captaincy on Bale, had Richarlison, Shaw, Diaz, Stones, Guaita. I mean, that's an absolutely massive score. If I was him, who would his bench would have been? It would have probably been Coleman, Konsa, and funnily enough, you would have probably played Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, so it probably would have been Ward-Prowse. Yeah, probably would have been Ward-Prowse. So his bench boost would have been 2 plus 0 is 2 plus 9 is 11. Spaced it on my math there. You would have played Martinez over Guaita, which would have been 27 points minus 4, 23 points on the bench boost. I approve of that, definitely. And captaincy on Bale was absolutely massive. I saw a couple of people triple captain Bale, but Richarlison coming out way better than Calvert-Lewin. 13-point swing there. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic on that front. But, yeah, overall, pretty happy. Yeah, we've set ourselves up for the rest of the next coming game weeks with the wild card into the bench boost, and we have cheaper players on the bench that we can still utilize from week to week. We'll have to utilize one of them with Barnes if we choose not to obviously transfer him out. So hopefully we don't get any more injuries, because then we'll have to make some changes, some unforced changes, which is not something that we want to do. All right, so moving forward, we have our predictions and how we did for this game week. So we have game week 26. A lot of predictions we had to do this game week. A lot of predictions, and I think we got a few of them right, but we'll see how it went. So I have the tweet here that I put out. Took a screenshot of it, but if you're not familiar with how the scoring kind of works, basically, if you were to get the exact score right, you get 3 points. If you had predicted the same result, so let's say you predicted a Man City win of any kind that wasn't 2-1, you get 1 point. And if you predicted anything else that wasn't the correct result or the exact scoreline, then you get no points. So in my case, Man City versus West Ham, I predicted 2-0. They won 2-1. West Ham managed to get a goal for themselves, so I get 1 point for that. West Brom winning 1-0 over Brighton. Brighton had 2 penalties, and I still don't know how they haven't scored in that game. I predicted 1-1, so I come away with no points there. Leeds versus Aston Villa. I predicted a 2-2. It ended up being 1-0 for Aston Villa. Then they just shaded that one, so nothing there. Wolves and Newcastle. I predicted 1-0 Wolves win, rather, but it ended up being a draw. So again, not really starting off too well here. Palace and Fulham, a 0-0 draw. I predicted a 2-0 win for Fulham, so again, not great there. Got the wrong side of Leicester and Arsenal. I predicted 2-1 for 2-0 for Leicester, and Arsenal won 3-1. So by the same margin, just the opposite team. Leicester just don't look good at the moment. They're dropping players, and it's due to just injury. I think they've been the second most injury-prone team this season, apart from Liverpool. So yeah, it's a bit unfortunate for them, and they don't really have that deep of a squad to begin with, so it does affect them quite a bit. Tottenham, I predicted a 2-0 win over Burnley. They won 4-0. So we got that one spot on in terms of the result. Man United and Chelsea, I predicted 1-1, and of course it was a 0-0. I tried to be a little bit different and only ended up with 1 point on that. Liverpool, Sheffield United, we got the exact score right on that one, 2-0. Victory for Liverpool, so 3 points there. Everton and Southampton. We predicted a Everton victory by 3-1. It ended up being 1-0, so we still get the 1 point there. Man City 2-0 over Wolves. It ended up being 4-1. A late flurry of goals saw Man City through quite comfortably, so we get the 1 point there. Leicester versus Burnley. I predicted a 2-0 Leicester. It ended up being a pretty close 1-1 to all things considered, so no points there. Aston Villa dropping 3 points to Sheffield United away from home. 1-0 in favor of the Blades. We predicted a 2-0, so nothing there. United Crystal Palace, a boring 0-0. United has had 3 0-0s in a row in terms of all competitions, so no points there. Spurs getting the victory over Fulham, 1-0. I predicted 3-1, so we got 1 point there. Everton also getting the victory over West Brom, although it was quite a lot closer than I thought it would be. I predicted 3-0, it ended up being 1-0. And then we also got the exact score right with Chelsea and Liverpool. I said Chelsea would win 1-0 over Liverpool, and they did so. So overall, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13 points with the 2 3s added on overall. In terms of the clean sheets, Leicester didn't end up working out. Areola did quite well. Pereira was not great. Mahrez was fantastic this week. I think he got 2 assists and a goal and started 90 minutes in both. And Diagne, I don't believe, returned in either of the games that he played. So a bit unfortunate for him there, because it was Bartley who scored in that one. But yeah, overall, 2 out of 5 in the differential is not great, but 13 points is a little bit better. 2 exact scores out of, less than 20 fixtures, as it were, is quite good. So I'm going to write that down on the old paper here. 13. My pen is terrible, and it doesn't really work too well, so I had to really engrave it on the paper. But yeah, overall, not too shabby. But yeah, let's kind of run through the games just a little bit. So West Ham versus City was quite close. West Ham played, quite well. I thought, all things considered, they defended pretty admirably as well. Just two kind of set piece-ish goals, because Stones really wasn't really a set piece. He was just up from a set piece, which they ended up putting back in the box. So yeah, it is a bit of a tricky one on that front there. Actually, let me just go over to the big screen here. I just forgot to do something. Let me swap over to the main camera here. All right. Let's move back. I just had to do something that was in one of these tabs here that I forgot to change before I went live, but we have it all sorted now. So, where were we? Right, West Ham versus Man City. So they defended quite admirably. West Ham obviously getting a goal with Antonio, which was well worked with Lingard. And overall, I thought they played it as well as they could have, basically. And I think West Ham is a team that I believe United have them after City, so 2 tough fixtures for United. But if you're playing against West Ham, they're definitely a tough outlet. West Brom versus Brighton. I mean, in a game week of shocking refereeing decisions, this game was definitely up there. The referee blows the whistle for them to take the free kick. Then he blows the whistle just before it crossed the line, says, oh yeah, you can't take it, after it went in the back of the net. And then they disallow the goal. Brighton get 2 penalties. They still don't score because they hit the woodwork on both of them. And yeah, it was a bit all over the shop. for that game. And West Brom do exactly what West Brom do, which is get a goal off of a set piece. And yeah, this is crazy on that one. Aston Villa versus Leeds. This was one where tackles were flying in left, right, and center. And I thought there could have been potentially a little bit more goals in this one. Was kind of surprised to see it was 1-0. Thought it'd be a kind of a high-scoring contest with Aston Villa's defense not looking as good with Matty Cash suspended. But I definitely thought Leeds would score, but obviously Martinez thwarted them, getting 3 saves and getting the maximum bonus in that one. Newcastle and Wolves. I think I fell asleep or didn't even watch the game because it's just a game that didn't interest me. Crystal Palace versus Fulham. I did watch that game quite intently and was quite happy with the way Fulham played. They were just a bit unfortunate not to be able to score. The frustrating thing was Aina did start, but he got hooked at halftime for whatever reason, and then played the full 90 tonight. It just made no sense why he got substituted. He wasn't injured, nothing. He just got taken off, I guess, for tactical reasons, even though it's still 0-0, and I think everything was fine. And Aina played way better this game, but I didn't see anything wrong from why he would get taken off at halftime. It's not like they were 2-0 down or something crazy like that. Leicester versus Arsenal kind of reminded me a little bit of how United played Spurs earlier on in the season, where basically Leicester's early goal kind of just triggered the opposition and made them just go Super Saiyan, just go crazy, and just start scoring goals just without the red card that United received. And yeah, it was a bit crazy to kind of see that Arsenal scored 3 goals, and they were some decent goals as well. But Leicester just are all over the house at the moment. They're all over the shop. And, no Maddison. Pereira has been out. Indeed, he's been in and out. Looks like Johnny Evans could be injured now. Fofana's only just coming back. Castagne's been in and out. They have to play Chowdhury, who was awful versus Burnley. Vardy doesn't look fully fit. Barnes is out for 6 weeks at the bare minimum. Maddison's out. I think I already mentioned him, but yeah, they're just not looking great at all. Spurs smashing Burnley. It was pretty much a Gareth Bale masterclass, as it were. Son and Bale linking up quite nicely. With Kane kind of in the mix as well. Kane could have also scored his second for the game to make it 5-0 at the very end. It was like a couple minutes from time, and Son slid one across, which was basically on the penalty spot or inside the penalty spot. And Kane missed the target, unfortunately. I don't know how Kane has come out of this game week with only 8 points. It's a bit of a miracle. Chelsea versus Man United. Now, another potential, shaky refereeing decision as well. The ball clearly hits Hudson-Odoi's hand. To me, it looks like he's going to, how players, they put their arms out to go chest the ball down, and it seems to hit him on top of the hand. However, the one thing that I would say that if they have to keep consistent with is that if his hand is, above his head and hits him in the hand, I think that they still have to give it based on what they've been giving in the rest of the game. So, a bit harsh on United there, but in terms of, the actual open play or other chances, I think Chelsea probably had the slight edge in that. But overall, I don't think, apart from the penalty decision, both teams didn't really do enough to warrant anything more than just a draw. Sheffield United versus Liverpool. Liverpool looking a little bit back to their old self in this one, although it is Sheffield United. Probably glad to keep a clean sheet. Everton versus Southampton. There were times in this game where Southampton looked really, really lively. But overall, just they've been another team that's been riddled by injuries as well. Romeu's out for the season. Walker Peters has only seen very little game time, and he's their first choice right back. They've had their center backs out at a given time as well. Danny Ings has seen his time on the sideline as well with injury. So yeah, Southampton have had it a bit rough, and at one point in the season, they were first place. They were literally top of the Premier League, and now they are down. Could be fighting relegation if they're not careful. So they really, really need to step up their ideas. Otherwise, they could be in a lot of trouble. Man City versus Wolves, pretty close contest. But I think I remember saying it's at 1-1. City I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this game there could be 2-3 goals if Wolves leave themselves open, and that's exactly what happened. They ended up winning 4-1. Gundogan coming off the bench, getting himself a goal for him, not a goal, an assist, so a little bit of points for himself there. So we'll definitely take those. Burnley Leicester, again, Burnley showed that they were willing to fight it out, willing to duke it out, with Iheanacho getting the equalizer. Vidros coming off a mistake from Chowdhury, who then a few minutes later also had a shot, basically was 5 yards out, maybe, and he skied it over the bar. All he had to do was hit the target and was going in. But yeah, a bit all over the place there. Sheffield United versus Villa. Villa just didn't look like they were ever going to score. Always in and around the box, but never really anything with any cutting edge on it. Crystal Palace versus United. Exactly what Roy Hodgson would have wanted versus United. Man United just had no real creativity. I think their closest shot was a Mason Greenwood shot that came like 80-something minutes into the game. Luke Shaw was the only really lively fullback, and then they just didn't utilize him in the second half for large parts of it. Bruno had to come so deep to get the ball. And the midfield pivot just didn't provide any progression of the ball with any meaningful, kind of zip about it. And Cavani was left out on basically Revis Island, as it were. You kind of left out in a situation where he could not receive the ball in any way, shape, or form, even with his movement. And Rashford was just so poor. But I think it's more to the fact that he still doesn't look fully fit, fully sharp, because he still, I don't think personally, has recovered from that shoulder problem that he still has. And I think there was reports that came out from reputable Manchester sources saying that he still has a problem with his shoulder, and every time he plays, basically, he can't hold the ball up or can't do the things he wants to do because his shoulder is bothering him. So again, that's a bit rough, considering he's going to be potentially going to the Euros as well. So mind you, if he doesn't get in form, even with the injury, he might not even be starting at the Euros. So we'll have to see on that one. Assuming the Euros still go through, which they said they have, they will be. And then the last 3 games, which were all today, were all 1-0s. Pretty much expected, apart from the Chelsea-Liverpool one, it was probably expecting to be somewhat of a closer contest. I don't really think that Liverpool troubled Chelsea for any portion of the game. Chelsea looked to be much in control for the most part. Timo Werner getting called offside for basically being like half an armpit off was a bit disappointing to obviously see, but it is offside by the letter, the rules, but where the lines are drawn is still a bit kind of up in the air, in these sorts, scenarios and that sort of stuff. But the Chelsea, much deserved winners in that one. Everton could have been potentially fighting for a potential point. West Brom having their fair share of chances, but not able to put them away. And same as Spurs. Spurs could have easily drawn or lost this game with the amount of possession and chances Fulham potentially had as well. So overall, a bit of up and down game week. Obviously, the winners out of this one being Man City getting 2 wins, and having another double game week ahead of them as well. So we'll take a look at that. These fixtures here are for game week 27. The deadline being this weekend at 7 a.m. My time, which is 6 a.m. EST, which means our live stream for Twitch. So if you're watching this over on YouTube, make sure to come check us out for the live stream on Twitch. That will be 1 hour before the deadline, so 5 a.m. EST start time. So make sure to come check us out for that. Now, into the predictions. So, Burnley versus Arsenal. Now, I think Arsenal should be able to break Burnley down. But Burnley have been quite astute defensively. They didn't show that much versus Spurs, but Spurs have just a different quality. I think Arsenal are starting to get on the up and up with Smith Rowe and Odegaard and these sorts of players kind of coming in and creating what they can in terms of helping out the forwards in front of goal. Lacazette's kind of been a bit of an influential player. Aubameyang kind of being back in and among and around it is something that can definitely help inspire them. The only problem is that you can't really have a situation where Aubameyang and Lacazette are on the pitch without kind of putting Saka on the right, or not playing both Smith Rowe and Odegaard. You have to make sacrifices somewhere. I still think that Arsenal probably get the job done. Arsenal defensively have been quite good. You know, like that's what Arteta's tried to do, and they're slowly trying to get things going. And I think the Leicester win might help them here. So I'm going to go with the Arsenal 1-0 victory in this one. Sheffield United versus Southampton. Now, Southampton haven't been scoring much, and neither have Sheffield United. Both teams defensively haven't been great, although Sheffield United has slightly improved. It's a tough one to call. I think it could just be... I don't want to say it's a no-no. I think Sheffield United probably could potentially nick it, but I can't really call it either way. So I'm just going to sit on the fence and just say both defenses concede once and then try to, keep the point. Villa versus Wolves. I mean, Wolves didn't show much versus Man City, all things considered. Their attack just looks so disjointed. If they're going to get something from Villa, it's going to be on a set piece. But I think mostly Villa will control the play. They may have Jack Grealish back for this one, so we'll have to see on that front. I'm still not sure when Matty Cash is supposed to be back, but he would definitely be a big help for them. But overall, I think if Aston Villa can get ahead quite early by a 2-goal margin, they should do it quite comfortably. So I think that they'll definitely get it. I don't see Wolves scoring in this one. I think Aston Villa should be able to hold out Wolves' attack. It's just a couple attacks usually in the second half. If you can ward those off, you should be all right. And Aston Villa have definitely done that versus a bunch of different teams throughout the season. Now, Brighton versus Leicester. Brighton can't really hit the broadside of a barn at the moment, but Leicester's defense hasn't been great either, so it's going to be a bit up in the air. Mind you, Fofana is back in the team by the looks of it, but Evans has, seems to have gotten himself injured. It's a bit of a tough one to call. I still think Leicester should have just enough to beat Brighton. I think both teams will concede, so I'm going to go with a narrow 2-1 win for Leicester in that one. Maybe Leicester get a couple on the break or something like that, as Brighton leave themselves exposed. Newcastle versus West Brom. Now, in my opinion, if you have something to do early in the morning that you want to get done and you don't necessarily want to sit down and watch football on a Sunday morning, or you just feel like sleeping in, this is probably the game to do it. There's not going to be very many people that are going to have players from this game. So, yeah, I would say if you're looking to sleep in, definitely wait for the other three games afterwards. But West Brom could potentially get something here. St. Maximin and Almiron are injured until the start of April. Wilson's still out as far as we know. Not many options going up front, so maybe West Brom keep a clean sheet here, and maybe they nick something on the break. I think I'm going to predict West Brom to win this game 1-0. And I think that this could be a very important swing of points, because if there's going to be a team that's going to be threatened by this victory by West Brom, if they were to get it, would be Newcastle, who are the team that are just barely floating above the relegation zone. Liverpool versus Fulham. Now, this is an interesting one because, again, it's another game at home. Liverpool have lost 5 games at home in a row in the Premier League, which is just unheard of. I think it's the first time that they've ever done that ever, I think. Will it go 6 games in a row? I mean, Fulham have been doing quite well. Liverpool have been kind of, out of ideas a little bit. They do have some players coming back. They had Fabinho back. They had Jota coming back. And if they can get those guys up to match fitness and put Fabinho in the midfield and put Jota in the starting lineup, I think they could potentially get something here. I'm going to go with a bold prediction here. I think it's going to be probably a 1-1. If I had to say a second one, I would say Liverpool shade at 2-1. But I think Jota could potentially get him a goal, get him something. But I still think Fulham might be able to nick something, as they should have been able to get something versus Spurs, but they were unfortunate in doing so. The Manchester Derby. Now, this is one that I'm going to be paying close attention to, mainly because I'm a Man United fan, but also because I have 3 City assets as well. So, in my fantasy team at the moment with Cancelo, Gundogan, and Kevin De Bruyne. And people are going to be looking at a lot of players to potentially captain for this game week. So, Gundogan being at the top of the list because he just was arrested in the last game. And I expect him to definitely play versus United. And I can easily see City developing a goal where, let's say, Cancelo's on the right half space, switches it across to like Foden or Sterling or somebody like that, who kind of like shakes, shakes up Wan-Bissaka, comes inside, or maybe like goes down the line, potentially cuts it back towards Gundogan at the penalty spot, who slams it in the back of the net. That could easily happen. Yes, Sterling has been quite poor versus Wan-Bissaka, but all things have to come to an end at some point, and I think this could be the game. City have been looking in fantastic form. They'll find a way at some point, I think. I don't think United's keeping a clean sheet in this one. I think if there's any team that's going to break United down, even though I don't think United are very good defensively anyway, is Manchester City. My heart tells me that I want to obviously predict a Man United win, but my head is going to be the one making the decision here. And I think City probably win this one in probably a hotly contested 1-0. Like I said, potentially a switch of play to one side, which pulls the United's defense to isolate one of the fullbacks 1v1, slot it back towards the penalty spot, some type of kind of typical Man City goal, and then City kind of just rest on their laurels and kind of set up shop and basically kind of ward off United, because they can definitely do that. Paul Pogba, being somebody who would probably be able to unlock City's defense, is not going to be available for this game, so we'll have to see on that front. In terms of how United plan of attack is going to be, it's most likely going to be sit back and try to hit them on the break, but City have shown that they can defend against that quite well, all things considered. Spurs versus Crystal Palace. Now, Crystal Palace have been doing a lot better defensively, but I think Spurs should have too much for them. I think it's probably going to be a very easy 2-0. Kane's probably going to be upset that he's missed the last 2 chances and maybe come back in this one and get himself a goal or 2. So I think they should be quite comfortable. I think Palace don't really have too much in terms of attack that will kind of threaten Spurs, really. They should be fine with it. If they were able to deal with, Cavallero and Maja for the most part, with Fulham, pretty similar-ish thing. You got a bigger guy who's stronger and kind of brings other people into play in Benteke versus Maja, who's like a quicker, shiftier type of player, which would be similar to like a Jordan Ayew. So they should be well addressed for that. Chelsea versus Everton's actually an interesting game, and I think this could pose a tougher threat than the likes of Liverpool, because I think Everton defensively, although they haven't been, as good as Liverpool have been in past, in the past, they still have been doing a decent job defensively, keeping back-to-back clean sheets. And I think that Digne is someone who can pose a threat on set plays. I just think that Chelsea's the only thing that Chelsea's going to have to worry about is basically Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, who are great threats on the break. And if Everton lump the ball up to Calvert-Lewin, I think Chelsea centre-back's going to have a problem with dealing with his his link-up play. So I see Everton potentially getting something, potentially off a set piece. But I can see Chelsea shading it just barely. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Chelsea there. West Ham versus Leeds. Now, this is like super good defense versus like crazy, shot-heavy attack. But I think West Ham will ultimately come out ahead on this one. I can see them winning this game and kind of hitting Leeds on the break. I think Leeds will still get one. I'm going to favor West Ham in this one, 2-1. And then last but not least, Man City versus Southampton. It is going to be a bit of a tricky one, I think. Southampton are a team that press quite well, can potentially cause City into a mistake. And if Southampton get an early goal, it can reinvigorate them, basically. The only thing is with City is I think they're super, super error-proof. Like they don't give up many chances, if any at all. And I think City will ultimately win this one. Again, a comfortable 2-0 for them as well, which seems to be pretty standard for them as well. If Southampton leave themselves open, it could be curtains before halftime overall. And City, they're not going to go out and try to, blow you out of the water unless you just literally give it to them, like kind of how Wolves did. So yeah, moving on to the clean sheets and differentials. West Brom, they're versus Newcastle with a team without Callum Wilson, Almiron, and Alan St. Maximin. So they don't really have anyone up front except for Andy Carroll and Joe Linton. Well, that's not great, overall. So not ideal for them. So I think West Brom keep a clean sheet here. So if you got any Johnston owners, any Ainsley Maitland-Niles owners, it could be your way into a potential clean sheet this week, I think. In goal, for our differential pick, I know he's slightly more than 5%, but he is in and around it. I think Lloris, I think he could potentially keep a clean sheet versus Crystal Palace. He kept one versus Fulham, and they're kind of in a similar bracket-ish. I think Fulham's technically better at the moment, but as was their, the way they played against each other. But yeah, I think, Lloris is somebody that could potentially get some save points, and he got some save point, I believe, in tonight's game, and kept himself a clean sheet. So Lloris, not too bad. And in terms of like picking defenders from Spurs, I mean, any defender can play at any given time. Lloris is the only one that is going to play game in, game out. Antonio Rudiger, he is 3.7% owned, and Chelsea have been keeping clean sheets. I think it's 8 clean sheets since Tuchel has come in, or Tuchel has come in. And I expect them to potentially keep a clean sheet versus Everton, although I think I potentially see them nicking something. But I think if there's either of those teams are going to keep a clean sheet, it's definitely going to be Chelsea. Chelsea will have a lot more possession of the ball, and I think the only way they probably concede is on some set play. But with Yerry Mina out, that could be a bit of a downer on their set plays. And Calvert-Lewin hasn't, the 2 games that they played versus Southampton and West Brom, had a couple of chances, didn't really do, put them away. So maybe he's he's potentially due a goal, but I think Chelsea's defense has just been so good, and the only one I really would trust would be Rudiger. I think he's 4.6 million now, and because I wouldn't go anywhere near Chilwell, Alonso, Reece James, any of those sorts, because they've been rotating around all over the shop. So he seems to be the most stable at the cheapest price. In midfield, I've gone with Diego Jota, because if there's somebody that's going to pull Liverpool out of their massive slump, I think it's going to be him. He's 2.4% owned. I think he's 6.6 million, and would hope that he would start in the next game that they play, because they need to change something. Liverpool need to go back to what they did best when they had the season where they got 98. I think it was 97 or 98 points to City, like where City won by 1 point. Where they were, they didn't have, I think it was like they didn't have Alisson, and they didn't have Van Dijk, I think it was, or something, or they hadn't had Van Dijk for very long, or something like that. And basically, they were high press, the heavy metal football, as people have coined it for Klopp's team, where they press massively from the front, and that starts with the forwards. I think you should be playing Salah, Firmino, Mane, and Jota. Have Firmino kind of playing the 10, have Salah kind of play striker, and Jota play on the left with Mane on the right, something like that, with your 2 base midfielders who are going to be somebody who are just going to kind of recycle the ball and screen. So those sorts of players can, or players that can help progress the ball super like quickly. One of those would be Fabinho, I would put in there, and the other one you could basically pick Wijnaldum, who potentially could drive with the ball as well, which Fabinho does decently well as well. Or you could pick Thiago, but I think Gini Wijnaldum probably suits that system better because he's a little bit more defensively capable. Thiago kind of gets a yellow card every now and again. And then you play 2 center backs. You got to play Kabak with somebody back there, whether it's Nat Phillips, whether it's Reese. I think it's Reese Williams is the other one. Doesn't matter who it is. Play proper center backs there. Play Robertson at left back. Play Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back, and then go from there. You should be able to do. You should be fine going forward. with those two, as long as you have two stable midfielders that are going to be sitting there. The two center backs know exactly what they're going to do. Bobby Firmino will put in, a good bit of graft in the center of the park when he plays the number 10 role. And you got to get back to when you win the ball higher up the pitch and basically you're a lot closer to goal. That's what Liverpool's done in the past, so they should go back to that if they can. And then lastly, this is probably going to look a bit silly, but Welbeck, he did miss a penalty for Brighton. But they are versus Leicester, and Leicester are a team that have been, conceding goals and haven't been as good defensively. It seems like when they lose attacking players, they become more defensively weak, even though they did lose Johnny Evans as well. But 0.3% owned could be good there, and will be a player for the blank game week as well. So yeah, could be interesting there. And in terms of Brighton's next fixtures, they have Leicester, but then after that, Southampton could be a good one for them. Newcastle in the blank. Then they have Man United, which isn't great. Everton at home, which could be a bit tricky, and Chelsea. So later on, the fixtures aren't too bad. Then Sheffield United afterwards. But again, more of a blank game week player, and just kind of for the short term, on that front. But yeah, so in terms of the team for this week, this is how it is shaping up. So we have couple of different ways we can slice it. At the moment, I currently have the armband on Ilkay Gundogan, and that's mainly because he got rested in the game, came on, got an assist. Him and De Bruyne will 99.9%, and Cancelo will play in that Man United at home game. It's just a matter of who is going to play in that Southampton at home game. If I had to guess, I would say the most favorable one out of those three is Gundogan, then Cancelo, then De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne could be rested for that game. But then they have Fulham right after that, so it is a bit weird. And De Bruyne is, in my opinion, probably the third most nailed-on player for Man City. You have Ederson, then you have Diaz, and then probably De Bruyne, I would say, is not too far behind. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a captaincy on one of those three, because definitely Cancelo's in the consideration. If you have Diaz this week, I think there's arguments to say that he could potentially be the best captaincy shout this week. You think Man United, it was 0-0 last time. City are probably going to control the game and don't look like conceding very often. So, and Diaz has shown his set-piece threat, which United are very vulnerable to. Southampton, same thing, very vulnerable early on, and a clean sheet with them not being able to score goals. Looks like 12 points, 24 points from a captain, looks not too bad. But if Cancelo wasn't so, averse to potential rotation, I would pick him as well. But if I had Diaz, he would definitely be heavily considered, almost as much as Gundogan for me. But obviously the three Man City players start. In goal, we're going with Martinez versus Wolves over the likes of Areola. Areola obviously having Liverpool, not as good of a fixture. Wolves will most likely not pose as much of a threat with a new invigorated Liverpool that will probably play Jota from the start. In defense, Target, again, we'll go with the double up. Makes sense versus Wolves' weaker opposition. And then Pereira, we've gone with Pereira over the likes of Luke Shaw, because if I do have two City attacking assets, I'm basically kind of playing if United were to, keep a clean sheet and win the game, or get a draw of some kind, I get 12 points from my City players from that fixture anyway, assuming Cancelo starts and they all go 60 minutes. So I'd be happy about that. If United win, then okay, my FPL team does bad, but United won, so I'd be happy. If City go on and spank United, then at least Shaw's on the bench and I don't have to really worry about him. So, and I know Shaw's going to play from the start. Aina might not play from the start, so that's why I've kind of put Shaw in front of him. Now, Shaw is definitely potentially could get an assist, but I don't think I can play Shaw versus Man City away over Pereira, who is up against Brighton, who can't even score when given 2 penalties. So my decision's kind of made for me there. In midfield, obviously De Bruyne and Gundogan play. Gundogan potentially being the better captaincy shout. Son obviously in there as well. Chris Palace, I'm not going to drop him. And then we have Lookman. We would have played Barnes over Lookman, but the fact that Lookman is fit, we're going to play him. And I don't see Lookman being a worse option than Aina or Shaw, in my opinion, because I think City will score versus United. It's just a matter of if United will score versus City. Just don't think it's probably going to be the case, but you never know. My heart's hoping that that United can get a win, and then it causes City to spiral down, and then United win the league. That would be the ideal thing, and then you could say hashtag 21 is coming. But getting back to the FPL point here, Barnes is injured, expected to be back April 10th. That's looking at game week 31. I'm potentially going to try to look to see how Leicester do in the Brighton game. If Vardy scores in that, then he's got Sheffield United. Then maybe I look to get rid of him and then kind of reassess afterwards to see if Barnes does come back in 6 weeks. But overall, could be making way for some Leeds assets where I might not even have to free hit in 29. I might be able to save that for 33, which is apparently when the other blank is going to be. So we may see on that front, or some fixture changes there. I think it's like that's the week that City and Spurs play each other. So I would have 5 players potentially not playing in that. So could potentially free hit in that one. And then the vice captaincy for our front line, we have Kane with the vice captaincy, mainly because I don't want to vice captain 2 players from the same team, because if there is an outbreak or something happens, then and all the fixtures get cancelled off for that one team, you lose your captaincy altogether. So I'll put it on Kane because he's the most likely person, in my opinion, to get something out of the other players. Watkins, we're definitely playing him. We're going with the Villa triple up versus Wolves, so hopefully a 1-0, 2-0 win. What did I predict for the Villa game? Where's Aston Villa? 2-0 win, and hopefully Watkins gets 2 goals from 2 target assists or something like that. That'd be great. Probably not going to happen, though. And then Jamie Vardy, we're still looking at him to see if he could potentially bring in something. He was kind of one of our major differentials, the triple Leicester, but obviously hasn't worked out as of yet. So hopefully we can get something from him as well. Then on the bench, obviously, like we said, Areola, worse pick than Martinez, in my opinion, this week. Shaw ahead of Aina, because Aina might not start, because Robertson and Aina started tonight with Tete on the bench. Whereas the game before that, Robinson came on for Aina halfway through that game. So maybe Robinson and Tete start, this game versus Liverpool. Maybe. We'll see. And then obviously Barnes is last on the bench because he's not going to play. But I could do something cheeky like put Barnes in and then put Lookman Lookman for a sub or something like that, but I don't really want to do that. But in terms of our transfers, there's a couple of things that I'm looking to do. Not this week. I think I'm holding my transfer this week, just to get more information to see what we can have ahead of game week 28. But basically, the things that we're looking to potentially do is Barnes, Vardy, Pereira, these Leicester players. The way that it is a bit knee-jerky, as it were, but I think that Leicester might be on a downturn, and that's not something we want to be thinking about when we have basically 7 million, 6 million. That's 13 million plus another 10. Almost a quarter of our budget is on 3 players, which isn't ideal from a single team that's not playing well. And, the fixtures do look great. They have Brighton and Sheffield United. I mentioned it before. We would free hit, hypothetically, in 29. Man City could be good for the likes of Vardy and Barnes on the break if they were obviously fit. West Ham would probably be a tricky. And then they have West Brom, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Newcastle. All could be great fixtures as well. But they just haven't been looking themselves. So we may be looking to move them on. So basically what that would look like is we roll a transfer this week, go into 28. The game week before the blanket 29, we would just basically we would use one of our transfers, and it would probably be Barnes out for, let's say, Rafinha as an example. Somebody who would he plays versus Chelsea at home, so we don't necessarily have to play him. We could play Lookman versus Man City at home, probably not as good, but Rafinha we probably play, and somebody who has a double game week, because we can't get any Fulham players because we have a triple of them. Can't get any Aston Villa players because we have triple of them. Maybe we can get a West Ham midfielder. Maybe just a Lingard. Could be something. Maybe. You know, that could be something we may look at. He does play in the blank game week, and then we could potentially, you know, he plays against. Actually, I don't think he can play versus Man United on 28, so we wouldn't be able to play him. So that would be a bit unfortunate. But he does play obviously in the blank, and then we could potentially move him on for somebody later on. But let's say hypothetically we go with Lingard. That would be our one transfer in 28, and then in 29, if we don't free hit, we could get rid of the likes of Ricardo Pereira. We can get rid of Jamie Vardy, and we could bring in, let's say, Bamford. And then we could bring in, let's say, I don't know. Let's say Dallas, hypothetically. Lingard could also be Rafinha as well. And then you're looking at Martinez or Areola, whichever goalkeeper you want to pick. And then you have Target. This defender could also be Burn as well. So basically a bench fodder. So, you know, another strat that I was thinking of was this would be Burn. And this would be Rafinha. And this would be for free transfers, because we'd have 3 going into 29, and that'd be 1 for Burn, 1 for Rafinha, 1 for Bamford. So we would have those 3. We would play Martinez, Target, Burn, Aina, Rafinha, Son, Lookman, Bamford, Kane, Watkins, and that would field 10 players. We'd have 9 outfield players, and our 10th player would be our goalkeeper, with a backup goalkeeper in mind. Now we could go one step further, and we can get rid of potentially, you know, one of our other outfield players. It would obviously come at the cost of De Bruyne, Gundogan, Cancelo, Shaw, in order to field that 11th player. Shaw, do we really want to get rid of him? Probably not, because he's got Brighton, Burnley in 2 out of his next 3, which should be clean sheets for United, but you never know. Cancelo, clean sheet wise, not great. You know, Leicester, Leeds, Villa could be tough, and then has a blank in 33, so clean sheet. But City just keep keeping clean sheets, so pretty hard to get rid of them. And then Gundogan and De Bruyne, I can't really get rid of them either. So I don't really see anyone that I would really actively want to get rid of. So I think 10 players is probably fine. I mean, you have the majority of them there. You have Rafinha, you have Bamford, you have Kane, you have Son, you have Watkins, you have you have Areola or Martinez, you have Lookman, you have a Brighton defender. Pretty much it, to be honest. Hey Zaka, how's it going? So yeah, I think that this could be you know, something where we go with it. And then into game week 30, what we could do is we can get rid of Lookman, or we can get rid of Rafinha. One of the two, doesn't really matter. And we can use our 1 free transfer to bring Bruno back in for the Brighton at home game. Decent game week for me, 88 points. Yeah, that's not too bad. I don't know if that's enough to get a green arrow, but it depends on where you're ranked. But yeah, it sounds like it should have been a good game week, all things considered. I can't remember what chip you ended up using. Oh, you didn't do any hits. Okay, well then yeah, that's fine. Should be fine. I can't remember what chip, if you used one. I don't know if you used a bench boost, or if you used a trip captain, or what you ended up using. Oh, I didn't use any chips. Okay. Well, there you go. But yeah, this would be something that I would do. The only problem that I would have the following week in game week 30 is that both Rafinha and Bamford obviously play Sheffield United. City would play Leicester away, which isn't ideal. And Spurs play Newcastle away. So, and then Watkins plays Fulham at home. So it would be a real struggle to basically pick between pick between those players as to who I would want to I would have to bench on all things considered, so be a bit tough. Fernandes to Sterling and Stones to White this round. Yeah, I would say Sterling is probably a bit of a risk. I think it's probably because Sterling typically doesn't do well versus United. But again, like I mentioned earlier in the stream that he could do well. He could break that duck, as it were. And then Stones to Ben White. I mean, that's probably fine too. Mind you, Stones I think is probably going to play both games, so it could be on for 2 clean sheets. So I would say if you have any City players, I would say keep them, honestly. KDB's a 50-50. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. But I think KDB is one of those players, you know he's going to play versus United. 100% will play versus United. It's just, will he play versus Southampton? And I think he probably has to, considering the fact that that's a lot of legwork that needs to be done. Whereas Fulham, I think, can get a bit of a rest there. But yeah, with these transfers, it would pose a bit of a problem because of the fact that I would have to bench one of Watkins, Kane, Bamford, Rafinha, Goodwin, De Bruyne, Son, and Fernandes, which would be a bit of annoying. Another strat that I was also thinking about was I could basically get rid of Jamie Vardy and get rid of Son. Originally it was Kane, and bring in Fernandes and Timo Werner. And then free hit in 29, but I don't think that's going to be as good as of now. Let me see if the points have updated. Have the auto subs and stuff come in? I'm not even sure. Yeah, I'll leave it. But yeah, that's the only tricky part, is that benching option. Going all in on Brighton clean sheet in 29. I mean, who did they play in Newcastle, right? But the thing is, Wilson might be back for that. And then Wilson could, you know, he has been doing it on his own. But all it takes is for Brighton to do a boneheaded mistake, and basically cause themselves to, you know, not keep a clean sheet, basically. I mean, they got 2 penalties and they still haven't scored. I don't know how. I have no clue how. But yeah, it is an interesting one on that front. I think a lot of people will be going for Brighton heavy teams. You know, I think a lot of people will be going for, like, if you're on a free hit, you're probably thinking triple Brighton, triple Leeds, probably Kane, Son, Watkins, you know, I don't know, something like that. Better with Burn and White than 2 people who don't play. Yeah, I mean, that's true. You're more likely to get a clean sheet in a game where players actually play. That is true. But actually, let's do that really quickly before we sign off here. Let's do a free hit team. So if I were to get rid of all of these players, the only players I would realistically keep would be these 4. I would have Sanchez in goal for Brighton. I think you know, you can pick whoever you want, really. Who else is in goal in this game week? Guess I'll just pick someone I'm not gonna have triple of, potentially. Guess I'll pick Martinez because it probably won't have triple Villa. We'll just put Martinez in goal. Lamptey might be back. Yeah, but is he going to come straight into the team? Who knows? But I think that the players you go for security. You go for Ben White. You go for Lewis Dunk. at the back. And then the only other defender I would probably think of would probably be Dallas. Because you're playing a 3-4-3 most likely. Depends on if Grealish is back, but he could definitely be it could be interesting. Lingard would be somebody I would be interested in, potentially playing. Obviously Son and Kane are in there. Rafinha, obviously. And we have Bamford. And then you would just fill your team with potentially whatever else. Maybe you go for Saka as well, and you could play him over Lookman, because he's most likely going to play. Maybe you go for Aubameyang if you think Arsenal could do something. Lacazette maybe. But I think Watkins is probably more likely to score versus Spurs than Lacazette versus West Ham. Kane's obviously Kane, and Bamford you're going to have because he's Bamford. Yeah, and then in defense you could just pick just whatever. If you're really going to go hard on West Ham, you can go like Craig Dawson, Cresswell could be another one. Like, if you look how much, we have so much money. There's not really that many expensive players when you think about it in terms of the players you really want. Like Watkins 6'5", Bamford 6'8", Rafinha 5'4", Lookman 5 million. Son and Kane are two expensive ones, but Saka 5.2, Lingard 6 million. It's really, really cheap in terms of what you can get in terms of value. It actually looks like Arsenal's more focused on Europa League than Premier League. Yeah, that could also be possible as well. That could very well be possible. You know, they may see Europa League as their one and only chance to get to where they need to go in terms of European aspirations. Maybe there is something in that. But, I mean, their team that they put out in the Premier League did quite well versus Leicester. Yeah, it is a bit tricky. But you have so much money. Like, even if, let's say, I wanted to go, I didn't want Lingard, I can still get Aubameyang and still have 8.2 million in the bank. I can still upgrade Watkins to Lacazette, and I still have 6 million in the bank. I have pretty much every expensive player you can have. You know, if I upgrade Lookman to Grealish, I still have 4 million in the bank. I can't really spend much. Like, literally, I have pretty much all the expensive players from their respective teams. Pretty much that you would probably want. And I still have 4 million in the bank. And I don't have necessarily the greatest team value. I think I'm like 104, maybe, million. Yeah, Reguilon, but will he play? That's the question. Mourinho could just, like that, he could just not play him. You know, he thinks Aston Villa, ooh, attacking team, got to play Ben Davies. Who knows? It is something that, like, you know, and this thing, defensively, is Spurs going to be good versus Aston Villa? I mean, they look somewhat shaky versus Fulham, who had a goal disallowed, which was unfortunate because it happened to strike his hand, which there's nothing really he could have done about it. So again, it is a bit tough, on that front. But yeah, looking at a free hit team, like it doesn't look great. And the thing is, a lot of the players that you would potentially want, like that look good. So like the more expensive players, like the Cresswells, the Grealish, the Sons, the Kanes, the Aubameyangs, the Lacazettes, these sorts of players, if you want them, they're kind of all going against each other, which is kind of unfortunate. Because pretty much everyone's free hit team is going to be pretty much template. You're going to have triple Brighton defense because you don't think Newcastle's going to score. You're going to have probably triple Leeds of some kind. You're going to have Son and Kane. You're going to have Grealish if he's available. And then you go from there. And that's what? 3 Brighton players, 3 Leeds players, Son and Kane makes 8. Grealish if he's available, that's 9. That's already 9 out of your 11 right there. So it's gonna be pretty template on that front in terms of who you pick. So maybe it is a better situation where 33 might be a better free hit week because of the fact that City and Spurs don't play. In this week because of the Carabao Cup final. Now I can't remember who they're supposed to play in this week. Don't have a clue when I'm going to use my triple captain. There's going to be a couple of double game weeks in the low 30s. But we'll see. I'm not sure who City is supposed to. I think City's double was supposed to be against Southampton in this 33, but who knows? There will be a couple of double game weeks. I believe Ben Krellin put something out where he said that there could be some doubles. Like there's obviously one in 27. He said there could be one in 30, 31 or something, 32, something like that. And it would be Spurs. It'd be Kane. Because they still have fixtures to rearrange as well, I think. Or a fixture to rearrange. Yeah, because they still have Southampton at home to rearrange. So they could do that wherever. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see. But yeah, I think we're going to leave it there. But yeah, let's just bring the team back up. So this is what we're looking at right now. Don't think I'm going to be using the triple captaincy chip. I have that as well as the free hit left. Still looking at potential, still giving myself options. Going to probably roll a transfer as well. Captaincy is probably going to be on a City player. If I had Diaz, I'd be pretty much considering it, almost certainly. Captain Kane or Sterling? I mean, you have to go with the Man City player, right? But a little part of me says that Sterling starts one and gets nothing in the other. But that one start could be against United, which he doesn't do well against anyway. But yeah, Southampton, it's just like whoever starts in the Southampton game for City could do really well. They could do really well. And it just depends on who that's going to be. De Bruyne looks like he could be a risk because he would have gotten 90 minutes. Would have been 90 minutes 3 games in a row. So maybe he's, potentially, rested. But again, De Bruyne plays a lot of games in a row. So we'll see. Gundogan got his rest and is pretty much good for a few games on the spin. So we'll see on that front. Cancelo got his rest as well and typically plays in large chunks, 3 to 4 games at a time. He got his rest versus West Ham, so he should play. Like I expect Sterling, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Cancelo, Diaz, Stones, Ederson, all of those guys to play in the Man United game. It's just who's going to play in the Southampton game. That could be literally anyone. I'm actually going to take a look at Man City's fixtures and how they fall. So Man City have United on Sunday, Southampton on the Wednesday, and then Fulham on the Saturday. Then they have Gladbach on the Tuesday, which they could probably rest like some players and like play like they can split time across players in like the Fulham Gladbach game. So like who doesn't play in the Fulham game will play in the Gladbach game. That's probably the most risky one if the one versus Fulham. Then the quarterfinals versus Everton, they're probably going to go solid there. Then they have Leicester, they have to go solid there. Leeds at home, they should be able to be okay there. Villa could be a little bit on the trickier side. Then they have Spurs in the final. They're going to probably play the best team there to try to win it. Crystal Palace, they could probably get away with going light. Chelsea, they'll probably go strong. Newcastle could go lighter. Brighton could go lighter, and then Everton in the last game. So, and that's mixed with some Champions League stuff in all of it as well. Zach Steffen striker. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. It's probably as crazy as as Ederson taking a penalty, to be honest. Mind you, I think Ederson taking a penalty is probably more likely. But yeah. Let's move over to the big screen here. So yeah, that is going to do it for... Got my cable. Call it. In the what's the name? But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you are watching this over on YouTube when this VOD goes live, make sure to come check us out for the deadline stream. It's going to be on Saturday, 5 a.m. EST. It's going to be a comment down below on the video on YouTube, which will give you a link to the Twitch, and give us a follow here so that you can come and check us out in the live stream and ask your questions. My transfers, again, like I said, probably not going to be doing anything spectacular. Captaincy's still going to be on a Man City player, almost certainly. Maybe if I figure that, that one of these players could be rested, but I think Gundogan definitely plays the next two. Maybe it's him who gets the armband. Maybe an outside shot for Kane, but probably nothing too major there. And then I could go into Gameweek 28 with 2 free transfers, but yeah, we'll see on that one. But yeah, make sure to follow us on all the socials and all that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Like, share, follow, all that good stuff. And yeah, we will see you for the FPL deadline stream on Twitch, 5 a.m. EST. That'll be the next time we go live. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.